Hello and welcome to Brave Souls Rewind, the show where I 200 older characters so you don't have to. Today we'll be taking a look at the mind version of Rose, who doesn't exactly have the best stats but does have some decent abilities. Now let's find out if they're enough to make him a viable character. Now as always, we start off with a normal attack damage build, and in my top 10s and in other videos, you will sometimes hear me talk about piercing normal attacks. Rose here is a perfect example of what happens when you don't have those. His attacks weren't hitting nearly enough enemies, thus decreasing the clear time, and he was getting hit from a lot of enemies that were able to attack him from a distance. Now this wouldn't be that big of a deal if he was actually able to deal a heavy amount of damage, but he wasn't. And sure, I could have given him better links and increased his attack even higher, but if you're having to do that, your normal attack build is not viable. And that's exactly what we have here. Now next up is a strong attack damage build, and after a really horrible NAD build, this one definitely felt viable by comparison. The key phrase there is by comparison though, since while I did clear the quest a lot faster, and without taking as much damage, it still took me a lot longer than it should have, and while he does have a strong attack recharge link of 14%, I did have to use my normal attacks while waiting for my strong attacks to recharge, and as I've already mentioned, they're not good. He does have Frenzy, which was nice, and like I said, his strong attacks were able to take the enemies down, but you do kinda have to angle them, and even then some of them weren't going down in one strong attack. So while you can clear Inheritance Zone under this build, I would definitely not recommend it. Next up is the strong attack recharge build, and out of all the builds, I probably like this one the best, if only because I got to spam my strong attacks. But the problem is, I actually did have to spam my strong attacks, since at some point some enemies were taking more than 3 strong attacks to take down. There are some good things about it though. For one thing, Rose has a strong attack recharge link himself, so the strong attacks came back incredibly quickly. They also have pretty good range for a character that's this old. Some are kinda slow to activate and you have to angle them, but for the most part the range isn't bad. The problem is they weren't dealing that much damage, so while the strong attack recharge build is workable, it's not viable. Now as I mentioned, the strong attack recharge was my favorite of the builds, but that's just because I like strong attacks. The best build was actually the hybrid build, as it typically is. Now I once again had to lean a little heavier on the strong attack damage side, since his normal attack sucked, but I did end up giving that a little bit of a boost too. The result was a decent balance of strong attack damage and strong attack recharge, and I did end up using my normal attack to take care of enemies with few remaining health. Unfortunately, much like the other builds, this one still took a bit longer than I would have liked. In a lot of cases the damage still wasn't enough, I still had to angle my attacks, and the normal attack was never a viable option on its own. For these reasons, this build is also not viable. Honestly, I'm kinda bummed out about this one. I really like Rose as a character, and I actually quite like this one's strong attacks. Unfortunately, the Captain Killer really held them back, and unless they can change that, I don't even think a resurrection would make this character viable again. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe to the channel, and let me know what other characters you want to see in a rewind.